in reference to migration movements. And of course, Alana, let's see if we can pick up where we left off the first segment and talk about the movement of people from place to place, nationally or internationally, as you indicated during the first segment. Let's talk about migration, define it in a real sense.
Now, in the first segment, we said that the big question for this episode this morning would be, what is migration? Now, like I said, the textbook definition of human migration is the movement of people from one place to another. Whether it be permanent settlement or temporary settlement, it's simply the movement of people. Now, migration has two major types. International, which is moving from country to country, for example, the United States to Canada, or intra-regional, which is staying within your country's boundaries. For example, it would be the United States, California to Colorado. That would still be in the same region. Now, these two types of migration are very important because they describe why people are moving and what they're moving for. For instance, international migration could be for jobs, for a better life, for better health care, to escape a country that's not doing so well. While interregional could be, say, for farmers, it would be, say, one piece of land you can't grow a certain crop on it anymore. So you move across, still within the same region, within your region's boundaries, but you move for smaller reasons. Now, international migration tends to be a little bit more serious in a way because usually there are bigger issues at hand when you choose to move internationally because, you know, people don't just wake up and leave their country.
Barriers in a real sense.
Yeah. While intra-regional is more, I wouldn't say less serious because, for instance, in the Rwandan genocide, not everybody left Africa, but they left Rwanda and et cetera and went to different parts of Africa, went across the continent, but they left their country. So, but then there's a third type of migration that's not necessarily a type, but more of a form of it, which would be forced migration. And forced migration is exactly what it sounds like. It's when you're forced to leave your country, whether it be due to poverty or lack of sanitation, famine, or you're physically pushed out, say due to war or prejudice, racism, civil issues, you're being forced out of the country. It's not by choice at all. While the other two types can either be maybe by choice or maybe you just felt like you had to, but forced migration, no conversation, you have to leave. An example of forced migration would be Syrian refugees fleeing Syria. They have no choice. If they'd stay, they'd be killed or they would starve, etc. So that's a type of forced migration. Now, when you delve deeper into migration, you see that there are two main factors that make people move, that describe why people move. Push migration, or push factors, and pull factors. Now, a nice way to remember it is that think of someone pulling you towards them. You want to come. If someone's pushing you out, they want you out. So like I said, with the example with the Rwandan genocide, that would be a push factor. The people wanted to leave Rwanda because of all the issues that were going on. That would push you out. While people from third world countries look at countries like Canada and the US and continents like Europe and see that, oh, they're peaceful and they have things together. There's not, you know, lack of sanitation or a big poverty issue or, you know, lack of food, and there's not a lot of natural disaster. So that's a pull factor. They see that we're doing better than their homeland, so they want to come. So we're pulling them by exposing our happy factors. Now, these two factors really, they can just describe almost any circumstance to where you would have to migrate. And it's good to know what's a push and what's a pull, because if you're in a situation where you need to leave your country or wherever you're at, your state or wherever, you're going to have to name, well, you should name the push and pull factors of wherever you're going, just so that you don't get into a worse situation. For instance, moving from Syria to, say, 1990s Rwanda. That would be a lot more push factors than pull, so you wouldn't really want to go there. So that's something that refugees and migrants have to think about. Going even deeper into migration, we think of types of migration. Now, the biggest one that, you know, the U.S. is talking about would be chain migration. If you haven't heard President Trump talk about it yet, the textbook definition of chain migration is basically when, think of how a chain, you know, it has links. One member goes somewhere and the rest follow. But how it relates to the United States is how we could be related to someone in, say, a third world